Now, a lot of things changing. All right. But also I want to tell you that the mayor just a little while ago saying, listen, this is a mandatory evacuation for Zone A areas. If you're not familiar with Zone A, those are the low-lying areas. Anyone who is living by the water in an area that floods, those are areas where you must evacuate by 7 o'clock tonight. Josh Einiger was telling us in downtown Brooklyn that one of the things that was also said is that in the buildings in those low-lying areas, they will make sure that the elevators are not working so that people understand you need to get out before 7 o'clock. Kimberly, what are people down there saying? A lot of people just enjoying their Sunday. They just have no idea. I mean, talk about the calm before the storm.
It really is. Let me show you. Look, there's some kids are playing out here with some toys and so forth. There's soccer. Come over here. Come here, guys. Ma'am, let me talk to you. Come here. Did you know there's a mandatory evacuation now in effect for this area?
No, we didn't know. We're visiting here, so we don't know much about the situation at all.
The alert went out at 11:45 this morning, and you have, if you live in this area, if you're visiting folks here, you have until 7 o'clock tonight to get out. So are you visiting someone in these buildings?
We're just by the Whole Foods shop in Tribeca.
Yep.
Is that the same?
Yes, that's part of Zone A. So you're going to leave?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd better go home and talk to our daughter and try and sort something out.
Were you concerned with this one? Are you taking the warning seriously, or are you kind of, we've heard this before?
Well, we're supposed to be flying home tomorrow to the UK, so I don't think that's going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen.
So we've just been taking it hour by hour, really, trying to find out more information.
Your daughter lives over in Tribeca. Has she been stocking up and getting ready for this, as people have been urged to do?
I don't think she has yet. I think she's thinking about it, but I think last year, when it didn't happen, then people are more, less laissez-faire. They're not worrying so much.
But yeah, this time, as we're seeing the models and we've been showing everybody, it needs to be taken seriously. Safe travels.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be in New York City a couple more days, probably till Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Okay, take care. So yeah, Michelle, people are not. What about you, sir? Did you know mandatory evacuation?
No, I'm with the husband of that lady.
Oh.
We could stay together, I think.
Lovely, but no, the alert went out today. It's serious. This is one of the low-lying areas, as you see the river here.
Yes.
It could be messy.
Yes, it could be. It's best to stay indoors, I think, particularly this evening.
Well, yeah, and you have to be out of this area by 7 tonight. That's what I was telling your wife.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we will do. We're only 2 or 3 blocks over there, so we're going to try and lie low, I think, probably till Tuesday.
Okay. Safe travels. Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of people are out. Here's a couple here. Excuse me, sir. Hi, ma'am. Did you guys know there's a mandatory evacuation? You know, you're going to leave? Thumbs up?
No.
No, they're not leaving.
They're not?
See, that's, and a lot of people aren't down here, Michelle. We're getting that same. Are you leaving? Mandatory evacuation. Yeah, do you live down here?
Joanne will be there in about an hour and a half, I think.
So you're leaving?
We're leaving.
You're taking this seriously?
Well, yeah, I think so. It's mandatory, and we want to get out of town, or earlier rather than be stuck when everyone starts panicking and leaving at 6:30.
What is your biggest concern down here? Is it the water, the wind? There's so much glass down here, too.
I'm not really scared of any of this stuff.
You're not.
It's just that I think they're going to make us leave eventually,
They are.
so we want to get out before the rush
Good job.
goes.
High five.
Thank
Good
you.
job. So that's what we want to hear. A lot of people, though, Michelle, aren't doing that. They're kind of sitting back and they're going to wait, and that's a big mistake.
That's the thing. All right, thank you, Kimberly. You're trying out there, and you're letting as many people know as possible. I do want to make a correction. PATH trains are shutting down just after midnight tonight. PATH trains shutting down after midnight tonight. Again, New York City schools closed tomorrow, and trains, New York City subway trains, not running tonight after 7. They will not move. Also, MTA buses not moving after 9, and Metro North. The schedule ceases after 7 p.m. Let's go to Jeff Smith for the very latest on the weather. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Just reading some research from Dr. Jeff Masters. He's out of the University of Michigan, and he thinks, based on his opinion, that the New York City subway has about a 50% chance of the storm surge overtopping these levees and flooding the subway. So it's probably a good idea to be closing those subways down at 7 o'clock tonight. And this would be the first time that happened since December of 1992, and that was a major nor'easter. This one expected to be a little bit worse. The tides could be a little bit higher in this. Rain and wind increase starting tonight. The brunt of the storm is going to be Monday into Monday night. And when I say the brunt, I'm talking the hurricane force wind gusts, I'm talking the major coastal flooding, and it's especially with that high tide cycle Monday evening when the storm makes landfall. The storm doesn't have very good timing. And heavy rain as well. Heavy rain not going to be the big deal like it was back in Irene, but boy, damaging wind and major coastal flooding are going to more than make up for that. We do have that coastal flood warning in effect starting tonight. Starting with tonight's high tides, we're going to be getting minor to moderate flooding, and already the surge values are a little bit higher than average. Tides are running a couple feet above normal, even into south coastal parts of Connecticut. So western Long Island already experiencing a storm surge well in advance of the storm. You can only imagine how it's going to get when the actual core of the storm bends into the coast. High wind warning in effect, of course, tomorrow right through Tuesday at 6 p.m. So even though the brunt is tomorrow into tomorrow night, we still will have winds capable of bringing down tree limbs on Tuesday. Now, during the brunt, the wind could actually uproot trees and cause structural damage and a lot of power outages. Also, this flood watch in effect, mainly for south and west of the city. I think the flooding threat is the greatest. Southern western parts of New Jersey, where you could see upwards of 8 or more inches of rain. Radar satellite already showing some of the rain bands moving in from the south and southeast. And you can even see on here, we're getting this onshore flow. It's piling water in already, and that's why the storm surge is going to get so bad. And Amy Freeze is going to talk about that in just a second. The main part of the storm, the core of the storm, is just southeast, or actually well southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. But Cape Hatteras is getting tropical storm force winds right now with gusts up and over 60 miles per hour. And the core is looking a little bit healthier on satellite. You see what almost looks like an eye-like feature developing in the core, which indicates, if anything, this storm could intensify more before it makes that landfall. It's going to be following the waters of the Gulf Stream off to the northeast before it makes that left-hand turn back toward the Jersey Shore during the day tomorrow. And even when that happens, when it moves over the cooler waters, it can intensify further because it's going to be interacting with the storm coming in from the west. Here's the official National Hurricane Center track. We still zone in on the Jersey Shore, but it still could hit anywhere from, say, Coney Island all the way down to the eastern Maryland shore. But right now, the most likely location, say, southern parts of New Jersey, right near Atlantic City, maybe southern parts of Ocean County. And then it moves in. We're on the right front quadrant of the storm, which is very, very important. We're on the worst side of the storm. Wave heights already up to 30 feet east of Cape Hatteras, and not too far away, not too far off of our shorelines, we have waves up to 13 feet. South of Long Island. You can only imagine how bad this is going to get during the day tomorrow. It's such a huge storm, and wave heights depend on the size of the storm. And this storm has been recorded already as being the largest hurricane on record in terms of the radius of, or the diameter of tropical storm force winds. And as Amy was pointing out earlier, from cloud band to cloud band, it's almost 1,000 miles in diameter. Look at the wave heights right near the center of the storm, about 37 feet. Amy Freeze, we're going to send it over to her right now. She has much more information on what will probably be the most dangerous aspect of this storm. Amy.
Jeff, the 8 o'clock discussion this morning from NOAA came out, a life-threatening storm surge for Long Island and New York City. And so this is something that we've really taken into consideration when putting together the forecast and the urgency with which we want to get people the information. First, I want to show you a little bit about the physics of a storm like a hurricane. If you're looking at the right front part of the storm, this is where you get the maximum hurricane impact, and then this portion of the storm, the upper left, or the front left, is where we get the biggest storm surge. And so that's the piece of the storm that's coming right at the Jersey Shore into the New York Harbor and parts of Long Island. So that's why the storm surge is going to be the most intense, is the position of the hurricane that we're expecting as it makes landshore. Right now, this onshore flow is just going to pile the water towards the coast. So a storm surge projection of 6 to 12 feet for Long Island, and then also down through the Jersey Shore also. These are the reasons for the evacuation. So as frustrating as it might seem to have to leave your place and to know that it's going to be for a chunk of time, if you can understand what we're up
up against here. We've got the onshore flow coming with the winds, the wave action, very intense, feeding into Raritan Bay. We've also got water runoff from the rain during the storm, not to mention this force that'll be coming from Long Island Sound, filtering down into parts of the New York Harbor. All of these critical locations, and the timing of all of this happening at high tide during a full moon. Really a recipe for trouble. So let's take a look at what's happening in one particular location. This is Lower Manhattan and Battery Park. We've just chosen one spot, but there are high tides across the area that look to coincide with the worst of the storm, and this is how the numbers are stacking up. If we have a Monday high tide in the morning at 8:32 with a 5.4-foot high tide, combine that with the storm surge numbers that we're seeing of 6 to 12 feet, that easily puts us over the splash mark of 9 feet for Lower Manhattan. So these high tides are astronomical high tides, meaning that they're a little bit exaggerated, meaning they're worse than normal. That coming in with the storm is the reason for all the concern. This particular map matches up with the zone evacuation map. So the city has put that out. You can find it at nyc.gov. And this shows what happens during a Category 1 storm. Areas in red flood during a Category 1 storm. This is also the Zone A locations. That's how they get those determining factors. Parts of Staten Island affected by this. So across the 5 boroughs, there are areas that are in Zone A. Coney Island, the Rockaways, parts of Jamaica, going back into JFK, looking at some of these areas where they're very vulnerable to the type of surge that we're going to be seeing. Lower Manhattan, another area of real concern as we get the majority of the impact of this storm. So Monday afternoon to the evening, this is where the storm surge is the worst. We're looking at 5 to 20-foot waves on the ocean front, Long Island Sound, easily 10-foot waves possible there. This creates the major coastal flooding, the severe beach erosion, and really the possibility of destruction, and even, as NOAA called it this morning, a life-threatening situation. So you want to make sure that you're taking personal responsibility and also listening to the experts out there making some recommendations and even the mandatory requirements to evacuate in some cases. That's the latest with the storm surge. We're going to get you up to speed on what's happening with the winds as well. And all morning long, Jeff, it's been interesting to see the winds picking up at the Jersey Shore with the different reports that are coming in. Already, there's a pretty brisk breeze happening at the shore, all evidence of what's on the way.
Oh, absolutely. Already Atlantic City has a 39-mile-per-hour wind gust in the past hour,
Pretty
so we're already
impressive.
up to tropical storm force in Atlantic City, and this storm is more than 500 miles away. It's going to come a lot closer, and it's going to make a direct impact on us tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. That's when the winds are really going to peak out. Already in our area, 32-mile-per-hour wind gust at Newark, 30 miles per hour at LaGuardia. So already in the coastal areas, we're piling the water onshore with these winds gusting 20 to 35 miles per hour at times. And one thing that Amy mentioned, I wanted to reiterate. New York City is going to be getting water from 2 different directions. We have the water funneling in through Long Island Sound. It comes down through the East River when we get that east-northeast wind. When the storm makes landfall and the wind bends back to the southeast, you'll be getting water coming up from Raritan Bay right through New York Harbor, right onto the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. So we could actually get flooding from 2 different directions, which has an additive effect on the storm surge, and that's why it's such a dangerous situation. And that's why the subways have a pretty decent chance of being flooded in this storm. The highest wind gusts we're expecting during this, 60 to 80 miles per hour. Again, these will occur tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. They'll probably taper off a little bit during the day on Tuesday, but even on Tuesday we could still have damaging wind gusts out there. 80 miles per hour plus, and I might even add an 80 to 100 mile per hour zone in there, because along the Jersey Shore, where this is expected to make landfall, when the core comes really close, we'll get that eye wall of the storm with the most intense winds probably moving into Monmouth and Ocean counties, and that's why we could have that potential, especially tomorrow night, of 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts. And sustained winds, by the way, are going to be about 40 to 60 miles per hour by Monday afternoon. Uprooted trees are likely, widespread and long-lasting power outages are likely as well. So you lose power tomorrow night. Guess what? Tuesday we're still going to have winds that are probably going to be too dangerous for any crews to be working on, say, branches coming down on wires, that sort of thing. So Tuesday's out of the question. Tuesday's still going to be a windy day. It's really Wednesday and beyond where we can start the cleanup process in this storm. expected rainfall, we've shifted this band a little bit off to the west, and typically what happens when tropical systems move into the northeastern part of the country, the east side gets the wind and the storm surge, but they don't get as much rain, or the right-hand side of the track, and that's what we're expecting here. So 2 to 4 inches of rain from the city points north and east. It's still a heavy rain situation, and it still will flood, say, small streams in urban areas and poor drainage areas, but not the flash flooding, the major flash flooding that we saw during Hurricane or Tropical Storm Irene from last summer. However, western and southern parts of New Jersey, closer to where the center makes landfall, we could be looking at 8 inches or more of rainfall, which can cause problems on some of the smaller streams and in some of the main stem rivers as well. And there'll be a little bit of a delay with that.